Alright, so what you guys have in front of you is this is every single character in the game, including Venture. And what we're going to be doing to start off the day is we're going to be doing a tier list. Now, a lot of this will be fast fire. And then at the very end, we'll make our little tweaks and adjustments. Now, before we start, I need to get into this very mucho quickly, and that is this. This character right here, Venture, I'm not going to be including in this tier list, and this is why. I don't think that they currently belong in any of these tiers, because as they currently exist, they are not healthy for the game. Let me explain. In the game of Overwatch 1, there was a character called Doomfist. Now, I've seen other streamers make this comparison as well. Just to give y'all some context as to why the comparison is being made, is because Doomfist was unhealthy for the game in two different scenarios. Number one for low elo and number two for high elo for their own reasons. Scenario one for low elo is that in low elo, people notoriously don't peel. They have very poor awareness of their teammates and of each other. And it's not even always peel. For example, you ever had that one tank player that just, they respawn, they hit W, they go in 1v5 before the rest of the team is finished grouping up, and they go, where are my healers? Or you have that DPS that's on a flank for like 9.5 minutes, or the Sombra that's permanently invis, basically, just watching the rest of their team die, just going, I'm ready for the hack, guys. I'm ready for the hack, guys. For like 3.5 minutes, builds one EMP in an entire round and never uses it. Or you're playing support, and instead of getting topped off by your other support player, they're just full heal botting a full health tank that's just holding shield as opposed to helping you as you get dove by Genji. So yeah, awareness and low elo, sometimes you question if these people are drunk or even have a monitor. But the issue with Venture, because they have this really consistent, very forgiving, especially when it comes to mechanical aim, one-shot combo, they're just able to kind of do whatever, and where they should be being punished for it, they're just not, because for some reason they just don't exist on the enemy team's monitors. They just don't. So they're able to continuously do this and then get out with their burrow ability. Now, once you get to high elo, things change a little bit. You are able to burrow in, and then that dash, which does damage, it has all these crazy applications in terms of getting out or finishing targets, and then using your burrow once it comes back on cooldown to get out. Your disengage and engaging options are a lot more varied, but the difference is this. Even though we're in an elo now, where people do peel, because people have better awareness, it goes in the offensive example as well. Now you have teams where they understand synergies, and they now are helping the Venture. It is no longer just Venture versus one solo killing supports in the backline. Now the Venture is able to get other resources and aid from their team, because now the coordination in higher elo is, well, higher. So they are oppressive in low elo and high elo for different reasons. And this is why I'm not saying that they are broken. I'm saying they are unhealthy for the game. So that's my take on that. Venture will not be in the tier list that we're doing for today. Like I said, I've been analyzing a lot of stuff all week long, and I will go over some Venture counters for y'all as well for the different roles, just so you can kind of have a fighting chance as the community gets more and more comfortable with the matchup that is Venture, because there's a lot of, hey, new character, we don't really know how to play against them yet. So that's definitely been happening quite a bit. So we'll be addressing that as well. Now, real quick, getting into this, we're just gonna go rapid fire. We're gonna knock out everything and just kind of go from there. All right, D tier, I'm gonna kind of emphasize this by saying this is Void like the plague, meaning that they're almost unplayable. C would be niche at best. Nice. B is gonna be not good or bad. You gotta be kidding me. And then A is gonna be ideal in most
what the Sigma?
scenarios. And then S is going to be very good. It's that simple. There we go. Now the big thing with my tier list is that I don't just try to consider like top of tier meta. I do try to consider every single elo and the different applications for it. Hey, and they say, Well, actually, no spoilers, but you'll see for we'll go over this for a couple things. So number one, we'll just fire these off. Like I said, we have Bastion. Bastion, I'm gonna say, is niche at best. The reason I say Bastion is niche at best is because there may be some situations, there may be some more bunkery comps where Bastion can be relatively decent. Unfortunately, turret form is like the real thing that kind of makes them either on or off when it comes to being a light switch. Most good teams, most higher elos understand you just bait the turret form and then you collapse in the Bastion. It's not particularly difficult. He really struggles against a lot of like really popular heroes at the moment. I actually think that Ball is significantly better against Bastion. Tracer can stick them really consistently with Pulse Bomb, evade them for the most of the time, bait out cooldowns. Bastion just kind of becomes a big body, and really can't really stick up to some of the better, faster characters in the game, and is not threatening enough without that turret form in order to kind of fend things off. They're not particularly good at flankers either, which we'll get to with Cass in just a second. But at the moment, I think they're really going to struggle. And that's why I say they're niche at best. They can work, but there are definitely better picks out there. Cassidy, I'm going to say ideal in most scenarios. The hitbox on that primary fire is unbelievably amazing. The hinder is good against Venture. It is good against Sombra. It is good against Tracer. It is good against Ball. It is good against Winston. D.Va, not really, but D.Va is seeing a lot less playtime, which we'll talk about that in a second. It's definitely more map and comp dependent. But Cassidy in general is just really good against a lot of these flankers and a lot of these rush heroes. So Cassidy, unironically, is actually doing super well. And when you'll see your team either running a more high mobility comp versus a more of a rush and play together comp, Cassidy has this really nice flexibility where he can fit into the anti-dive comp very, very well, especially if that's what your team seems to be wanting to go for. And we'll talk about the supports in a second, but he gets a lot of nice synergies with a lot of the other stronger characters in the game at the moment, especially when it comes to the support class. And that's really, really ideal, especially for, stopping a lot of these flankers, kind of doing some of these counter measurements. So I think Cassidy is actually really, really nice. Couple maps that they struggle on, but in terms of compositions being created, Cassidy is actually quite nice where they currently are. D.Va, I'm going to put in not good or bad, or actually I'll put them in A. Like I said, I might tweak these things at the end. I'm going to throw D.Va in ideal in most scenarios just because I think she's always good. She has fantastic mobility. Matrix is super, super good. The burst damage is fantastic. The only thing that she really struggles against right now, if you're playing in like lower elo, is she has no way of mitigating the Venture ult, which I think is a bit overtuned at the moment, unless you have a tank that is able to mitigate it, which will... Once we get over to Winston, spoilers, I've been running a lot of Winston against new Venture players, and they can't do anything against me, which we'll talk about that in a second. But D.Va, I actually think is in a pretty solid spot. Can't really be bad, can't really be good. And in terms of all of the off-tanks from Overwatch 1, I actually think she's the one that is doing the best, other than Sigma, of course, which technically was always an Overwatch 2 tank, so we won't count him. Genji, I'm going to say not good or bad. He is still a noob stomp hero. He still has good mobility. He still has some synergies with other, tanks that I think are fairly strong at the moment. There are just other DPS that fit his role or fit his purpose, and then they just do a better job. So I don't think Genji is good or bad. I think that there are a lot of possibilities with the character. I think Genji is like an okay-ish spot. The only reason he's not higher is because other things do his job and do it better. That's my take on that. Hanzo, this really hurts, and again, I may be slightly biased, but I will put them at niche at best. Again, they're in the same boat as Bastion, where they're going to struggle into a lot of these situations. If you have a reason to justify picking Hanzo because you don't play anything else, it's better than nothing, but it is what it is. I'll just kind of leave that there. The cooldowns are not as good. He can't really duel. It's a pretty rough spot. Junkrat, avoid like the plague. Junkrat is probably the worst DPS in the game right now. Just is. Doesn't matter. Low elo, high elo. High elo is a joke. Low elo, high elo. The only people that are making them work are the crazy specialists, and even then they're not having a very fun time. Plain and simple. Lucio, S tier. Lucio is just fantastic. I actually think Lucio got better with the recent changes. They may have lowered the damage from 20 to 18 per projectile, but they increased the boop damage, which I don't know why they thought that was a good idea. Lucio was already fragging in a lot of these different elos, and now Lucio is actually better when it comes to the diving gauge, especially going into groups and even those more anti-dive compositions with like Cassidy and stuff like that. He can get a lot more ult charge because his boop is obviously larger area of effect, but it does more damage per target. So Lucio actually got buffed, which is kind of crazy. Mei, niche at best. She doesn't have the same breakpoints that she used to. She doesn't one-shot Tracer. She doesn't stop a lot of these flanks. Her wall, because of how much mobility right now is in the meta, the wall is really not going to do too much to slow that down, and it can be busted or just mitigated entirely by going around it. The wall, it's not as good as what it is because the wall used to work in tandem with Mei's breakpoints, but now the breakpoints have changed. Mei has dropped, but she still can be very deadly into certain situations. So that's why I say niche at best. Mercy, avoid like the plague. The character does not heal enough to warrant healing, and the damage boost is only single target. Zen's Discord will always be infinitely better because it is multi-target focused on one point going inward, versus Mercy's damage boost is single target going outward to single target, except for AoE abilities for splash, such as like Ash Coach Gun. But a one-to-one trade will never be as good as a multiple source into one amplification, which is what Discord is. So it's really funny. I honestly thought they were going to Giga buff Mercy, give her like 150 healing per second, and with like a double beam just for this season, just to help sell the battle pass. But yeah, honestly, avoid like the plague. I think Mercy is actually, in most scenarios, a hindrance to your team. If anything, it is very difficult to get anything done, and I actually kind of hurt a little bit anytime I see the other support go Mercy, or if I'm not playing support, having a Mercy on my team, because it seems like the other stuff of rezzing into 5 people or just staying alive in high elo, like where you have the immortal Mercies, it doesn't seem like it's enough. It's not enough anymore. You know, it just isn't. The only scenario in which it kind of can help is if you're damage boosting that one cracked out hit scan player. But even then, it's such a demand of excellence on that hit scan player where they can never stop popping off and they have to demand aggro simultaneously. The risk to reward is just not worth it. I actually think that this is a hindrance. I called this when they changed Fada, that she was better than she was before, but it was going to take time for people to learn the character. I still stand by it, and what is happening now is people are actually starting to learn the character. She has a mid-air Sojourn slide. All they have to do is give you some, I don't want to break her, but if her ultimate, when she used it, if she gained temp shields, like just 200 temp shields, I think that would be fantastic. Anyway, giving Farah some temp shields, I actually think would help her, because otherwise she just insta-dives in her ultimate. Either shorten the amount of rockets, so it's a shorter of an ultimate, but the survivability goes up. Don't just give her extra survivability, because it'll break the character. Reaper, niche at best. Reaper is getting a rework, so I won't dwell too long on this. But, you know, Reaper can be actually kind of decent into some, you know, rush comps. Like I've seen them be ran with like JQ and things like that. Not actually the worst thing in the world, depending on the map. But everywhere else, they really, really struggle. They will always be good in low elo because people don't know how to respect effective range. But as you climb higher and higher, Reaper just... If you pick them to solve a problem, oftentimes it's only to solve that one problem. They're unable to adapt to multiple situations. So they're a lot less versatile, is a good way of putting it. So Reaper would be niche at best. Reinhardt. Unless your name is LH Cloudy, I really think playing this character is a mistake. That's the best way I can put it. The Shatter buff was pointless because Shatter was never the issue. It was in getting to the fight and actually being able to engage to build the Shatter, sure. So this, they completely missed the point. Hog, niche at best. Again, you can make it work, but, you know, I almost want to put them in not good or bad, because right now, you know, you can play them against some of these dive tanks that are doing a really decent job, and you can threaten Tracer if you have the skills for it. And Ana is being run a lot less because Ana's in a really, really bad spot. Like, Ana's in a really bad spot right now. So I'm actually going to put Hog at not good or bad. And it's not just because of counterplay, but it's also because there are applications where Hog can actually be pretty decent, but not the best, but also not. So yeah, not good or bad. I'll leave Hog confidently in B. Soldier is this close to dropping into niche at best, just because Soldier, in my opinion, is one of the most diveable DPS at the moment in the game that is even semi-relevant to play. He doesn't have enough burst in order to actually be threatening. He just does a lot of damage. So in low elo, that can be fantastic because you can overwhelm with numbers, but as you climb higher and higher, there's less and less and less and less of a return to play this character, especially with right now, all the popular picks being so high mobility. Soldier is just very, like I said, diveable. He's not good, he's not bad, but he definitely needs a little bit of loving when it comes to giving him some more burst, maybe in the form of his ultimate. I've heard Metro talk about taking away the lock-on effect of the ult and just making it do more damage so that you have something kind of to the effect of Railgun, where you have a higher burst damage capacity, so you have a higher amount of damage spike or peak going on to where you can actually land and secure kills, and it would still reward high elo players who can aim mechanically, but it wouldn't overwhelm low elo where people can't really aim that well in the first place. That's an interesting take. Symmetra, niche at best. Yeah, Torbjorn. Torbjorn, actually, low-key, I don't think is getting enough love. I called this at the beginning of Season 9 that Torb was going to be very, very good and kind of like a hidden gem. I still think Torb is very good. The turret gets instant free value, and it also applies the passive now. They fixed that little bug, so it also applies the passive. Really decent against flankers, can do things like mark and check the ball, mark and check the tracer. Built-in off angles, you know, if you have even if you have like this weird comp where you have a ball and you're running Torbjorn, having your E on cooldown plus the ball's generative armor, you're running around with like 400 HP or something ridiculous like that. Torb is just, you know, you throw in that bikini skin and you just run around and you do Torbjorn things. I actually think Torb is very slept on. Tracer, S tier. Tracer is very, 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 very good. The reason I say S is because they're kind of good into everything that's good right now. You can run Tracer with Rush, you can run Tracer with Dive. Those are the two best comps right now in the game. Lucio's the same thing. You can run Lucio with Rush, and you can run Lucio with Dive. Y'all are going to see a pattern with this when it comes to the supports and it comes to the DPS that I put in S tier. You can run them with the two strongest comps in the game, Rush and Dive. Easy peasy. The nerf that they did where they added a second to recall, that does absolutely nothing because the low elo Tracers already are wasting recall or not having it and going in and exploding and dying anyway. And then the best Tracers in the world, 1 second difference on that, their uptime is when they're not having to use recall. The strength of Tracer is when you have recall but you don't use it. You're using your blinks and natural cover effectively to where you don't need your recall. The time of where Tracer used to go blink, 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 da, 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 oh, I messed up, recall, and then just waiting around for 13 seconds, that playstyle is dead. That should not be your default as Tracer. Using cover, keeping your uptime high, and then only using recall when you absolutely have to, that is how you're supposed to be playing Tracer. And the best Tracers know that, so a second difference on the recoil, or on the recall is nothing. And the pulse bomb change, same thing. Low elo players, they can't land pulse bombs to save their life, neither can J3, but high elo players, it's not making much of a difference. Widowmaker is going to be, this is where it gets tough, where either she goes niche or she goes not good or bad. I'm going to put her in B. The reason I put her in B is the same thought process as Genji, but I put her in low B. Nah, I have to, I'm going to go C. The reason I say C is because on certain maps she still does fantastic, but she's too diveable. Even places on like Havana that Venture can just burrow and get up to, crazy, crazy, crazy verticality, Widow's not safe. It used to be the only thing that could get up to her were like certain DPS or the tanks and stuff like that. They have to commit on her. But with the fall off and everything else and the amount of resources that you need to keep Widow alive and the amount of time you have to pop off versus your downtime, I put Widow niche at best. She's still a very good character, only character that can one-shot at the moment without any help from anyone else. But other than the characters, other than the maps and comps that really complements her fully, that makes her niche at best. Winston. this is where some of y'all might not agree with me. I say S tier. The reason I say Winston is S tier is because still chews through armor, and this is the only tank that complements the rest of the meta synergy and also deals with Venture. Helps against Ball. It's complemented by the other supports that are going to be in S tier as well. Complements the dive and the rush mentality. Yes, you can run Winston with rush. It is a thing. 100% is a thing. But Winston, I think low-key is very good. Very good. Zarya, niche at best. Zen. I might have to come back to Zen. I might have to come back to Zen. But there's a reason that people are running like Lucio. Lucio Zen is even a thing. It's better than Zen Mercy. Zen Mercy maybe for low elo. But like even Lucio Zen is like crazy, crazy good. We'll put Zen A tier. We'll put Zen A tier. I don't think so. The thing is, Discord is still fantastic, and because the comps right now are so fast and go and do damage, and the orb on your flanker, like let's say your tracer or whatever, or you throw it on your ball if you really have to. You ideally throw it on like your tracer, or you know your other DPS, which we'll talk about in a second. And you enable them in. It's really, really good. Discord is great, but that's the thing. It doesn't matter. The whole version of the game right now is get fast kills. Oftentimes, if Zen dies, but your front line is fast enough, the Discord already gives you enough burst to where if the Zen does trade their life, the fact that they got the orb out and they got the Discord out is enough to already secure the fight. It does not matter that the Zen dies, because if that's what they want to dive and they don't address all the other threats on the team in high elo, it's more than enough of a trade, because the Discord and the Harmony have already done their job and the fight has been decided. That's the thing. Zen can play far enough back and have these auto aim abilities to where he already does his job. And if they go for him, that's actually low-key a throw. Because it's like almost like killing the Ana after she's nanoed for the Nano Blade. Nano's already gotten off. The Ana can die, that's absolutely fine. Because the Nano Blade is the win condition, not the Ana being alive. It's the same thing with Zen. Zen being alive at the beginning of a fight is important. But once the fight has already begun and that initial dive or rush has taken place, it's absolutely fine that the Zen dies. It's absolutely fine. So I put Zen maybe low A tier, but definitely A tier. Ana, I'm going to put niche at best. Ana is way too diveable. Ana is way too slow. She has no auto aim, no free abilities to be seen where all these other characters do in the support class. Ana, unfortunately, has not gotten any love in the last 2 seasons, arguably 3. And it's just sad to see her where she is. I think it's a shame. Sombra, S tier. I've been saying this for 2 seasons. Sombra was going to be a sleeper pick, and I 100% stand by it. Sombra is very, 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 very good. Excuse me, pairs well with Lucio, pairs well with Winston, pairs well with Tracer, pairs well with spoilers. The other characters I'm going to be putting in S tier. Again, goes well into dive, goes well into rush. Those are the 2 strongest comps in the game right now, and are very, 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 very strong. Now, Orisa. The reason I put Orisa in A is because if you are not a diver, you can still rush with Orisa. And the CC on her javelin, Orisa is just like, it's hard to mess up Orisa. It really, really is. It is hard to have Orisa not be playable, or in this case, ideal in most scenarios, if you are unable to play dive. It's dive and rush. It's not just dive, it's dive and rush this season. So Orisa, it's very difficult for her to be bad. And there's a reason that you see a lot of people that are like going for champ right now, or who are playing in like these higher upper GM lobbies. Orisa is always a part of their arsenal because she's a lot. She's a lot. She's a lot. I may even end up moving her up. I see chat you guys talking about S tier for Orisa. We might move her up. Like I said at the end, I'll do a little bit of tweaking. But yeah, Orisa is ideal in most situations. Can't wait till he thinks about Moira. Oh, we're gonna get to Moira in a second. Moira is S tier. I think Moira Lucio are the 2 best supports in the game right now. I think Moira Lucio together. Moira can be played into rush, can be played into dive. Moira is unbelievably good. No, Moira is S tier. Y'all can disagree. Y'all can argue. Y'all can repost this on Twitter. That's absolutely fine. Kiriko over Moira. Oh no, Kiriko. Kiriko is really good too. And y'all will see that in a second. But I'm saying straight up, Moira Lucio goes burr. Moira Lucio is actually crazy. But Moira Lucio goes absolutely burr. They're crazy, 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 crazy good. Brig, I'm putting not good or bad. She plays really good in terms of countermeasures, and in low elo she's a menace. But for a higher elo, again, it comes down to the Brig player. You know, I think that there's a lot of playmaking potential. I would almost even put her in A. Because you can play her in rush and you can play her versus dive. And she enable. Okay, I'm putting her in A. I'm putting her in A. I'm putting her in A. That may be questionable. I may be skamazed, but we're putting Brig in A. We're putting Brig in A. I'm staying by it. I want to shoot. Ambi, what happened? Are we in trouble? And Tommy, thank you again for the 10. We'll get you your VOD tomorrow. And Delusions, here's your Riz. Alright, we're good. Ball, S tier. Called this. Everyone was like, oh, the grapple thing. I'm like, nah, you didn't understand. When they announced the rework, I was already terrified because to me, in my head, it was OG Brig Rally and JQ Shout. It was going to be somewhere in between those two. And I think I was right, is that is just, it's a little bit too good. I think they need to chill with the whole armor thing. They need to either make it so giving it to you, they need to limit the range or something, or how much armor they can get, something, because it's just too good. The new ball tech I think is super fun. I think it's different and allows for a lot more applications with ball. Helps with ball's uptime a lot. I think that's great. But the armor giving, sharing Christmas time, I don't agree with it. I think it's very, 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 very dangerous. No. Way too strong. Ball is definitely S tier. Ash, not good or bad. Same thing. She's super diveable. She's a hit scan hero, so she'll always be consistent when it comes to lower elos. But she's very diveable. Bob is definitely being overwhelmed in terms of other types of contributing DPS ultimates, which Bob has never been amazing, but Bob's, you know, anywho, it is what it is. But her kit is, she's just going to struggle with all of these better heroes that you could play against her, and she's also going to struggle in terms of justifying why you would pick her versus something that's more consistent. I didn't think I would see this for a while, but I actually think Cassidy is more relevant than Ashe is, and I think that's kind of wild. Genji sucks right now, does it? Yeah, real, we talked about that earlier, where Genji's not good or bad, but there's other dive characters and rush characters that just do the same thing as Genji and just do a better job. They're just more consistent than Genji is. BAP, not good or bad. Nothing wrong with it. I would actually even argue A tier. I'm going to put BAP A tier. Because he still does really well into rush. And the lamp is still really good. Yeah, and then the window. Yeah, I'm going to put BAP A tier. I'm not going to overthink it. Sigma, this is really tough.
What the Sigma?
I'm going to put Sigma here. The reason I'm going to put Sigma A is because if you're playing rush, Sigma rush is actually viable. We've even seen Sigma brawl comps before in like pro scenes and stuff like that in scrims. And that's because it does work. So I'm gonna put Sigma A. I may switch it because he obviously Sigma struggles against dive. So we may switch it. Like I said, we're gonna revisit and tweak some stuff at the end. Echo is very good. Echo is S tier. Echo is unbelievably good. She's good with rush. She's good with dive. She gives you access to other cooldowns that you wouldn't otherwise have. You can double down on certain cooldowns. Her ult is good for cooldowns, not for ultimates. Remember that. Since they changed it, it is for cooldowns, not for ultimates. And the second life is good for uptime. But Echo is just very good. Crazy mobility, flexibility, play her low ground, high ground, wide, flank, burst. Just very, very good. Very, 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 very good. Sojourn. Even though it is currently a, and this is the same reason as Sigma, where actually I might throw these two down here. Sojourn is, so she's good, but there's so many other things that are better, and then she still becomes very diveable outside of slide. I'm going to lock that in. I'm going to switch Sigma and Sojourn to B tier. I don't want to look at chat, because y'all will change my mind. But I think Sojourn would go B, and that's, yeah, I'm gonna do Sojourn to B. There's just other stuff that is just better. It's just better. I think I'm gonna get some hate for this one because I put them in the same category as Soldier. No, I can't put them in the same as Genji and Soldier. There's no way. All right, A tier. That's my final. All right, JQ. S tier. I think JQ is very good. And as I say, oh no. There we go. We fixed it. We fixed it. Fixed it. JQ is A. Riss is S. Kiriko, S tier. A tier. A tier. Ram. Ram, actually, I would say is S tier. I know a lot of people are going to disagree with that, but I think it's Ball, Hog, or I'm sorry, Ball, Winston. I called Ball Hog for some reason. Winston, Ball, or Orisa Ram. I think these are the 4 best tanks. These are 2 for rush. These 2 for dive. I'm going to put the supports next to each other. Their DPS are there, tanks are there. Just so it looks a little prettier. So for supports, it is Lucio and Moira. Tank, Winston, Ball, Ram, Orisa. And DPS, it is Sombra, Tracer, Echo, in my opinion. Lifeweaver is niche at best. For low elo, don't play this character. Y'all don't know how to pull. Don't play it. They did get buffed. They're niche at best. I would almost put them in not... I'm putting them in not good or bad. I think they're better than Ana right now. They can't miss their healing. Tree got buffed. Self-sustain got buffed. You have double platforms to fight. And you have your dash for resetting. If you basically dive the Lifeweaver, half the time you're trolling. Because they're so hard to kill. Yeah, I'm going to do that at B. Alari, I'm going to say not good or bad. I think she does a slept-on amount of damage. Her ultimate is actually very decent, especially as you're climbing. And if you're mechanically adept, you can do a lot of cool things. I've even seen people trying Alari into rush comps. And it's not the worst thing. You know, it's maybe not the most optimal. I think there's definitely some growing pains there. But I actually think that Alari is in a decent spot. And if you're looking to climb and frag out, I actually think it's really, really good. Again, this is trying to consider every elo in the game while also trying to identify what characters are strong right now. So this is bronze all the way to even like high GM. So it's very difficult to do this, y'all, where I try to consider every rank in the game, but I'm trying to be as fair as possible. Mauga. I think that they can still be ran in rush. They can still be ran in rush, and it's pretty damn good. Especially since Ana isn't being played that often. That's what it is. Now, Doomfist. Doomfist is S tier. Doomfist is S tier. Doom is probably the best tank in the game, asterisk, but is the hardest to play tank in the game. There's like 4 people that can play Doom well in NA. In EU, I think there's like 3. So there's like I think there's less than 10 people in the world, I think, that actually play Doom well enough to actually justify it. If you're like a diamond or a silver Doom OTP, if you're just trying to have fun, hell yeah, have fun. But there's nothing wrong with picking up another tank. There's nothing wrong with that. Doom is a hard character to learn. If you're just trying to have fun, you're just trying to have fun. I just don't want to see y'all get avoided by every single person in your elo because that 10 avoid list is going to be coming out. You know, it's nothing wrong. If like Doom's not working, you know, maybe you're not that girl. You're not that guy. Maybe we switch it up. Maybe whip out the Ram or the Winton or the Orisa. You know, that's just my thing. And again, we're not putting Venture in any of these categories. I do not think that they're healthy for the game. I explained at the beginning of the VOD why. But let me look over this really quick. Oh, Mauga. Let me justify Mauga. So the reason I justify Mauga is because they're really good against Winston. They're good against Doom. They're good against Ball. They're good against Ram-ish and Orisa-ish. So there's just a lot. And the normal things that kind of keep Mauga in check aren't really being played. Ana. So unironically, I actually think Mauga does decent-ish with the matchups. Cardiac Overdrive is still pretty damn good. I think it's actually a better version of Shout, in my opinion. And I actually think that Mauga is, you know, very, very viable, very, very doable in a lot of these rush comps. He is still big-bodied, you know, it happens, you know. Hip diff, thickness diff, but I actually think Mauga is low-key pretty damn good right now. Especially since you have most of the things that usually deal with them aren't as common. It kind of it makes sense that they would naturally get a little bit more uptime and a little bit more loving. Why Venture isn't good for the game? You're selling. Y'all will have to check the YouTube because this is going on YouTube, so you'll have to check. But anyway, I don't see anything unless I missed something crazy. I'm sure y'all will let me know in the comment section. But this is after playing this new season for 1 week, this is my impressions. This is where I think currently, in the state of the game, these are very, very good. It's that simple. Ideal in most scenarios, not good or bad, niche at best, and avoid like the plague. Yes, I think Junkrat, Mercy, and Rhine are the 3 worst heroes in the game. It is not even close. And if we're looking at some of the best characters in the game, y'all have a lot of options when it comes to the tank and the DPS role-ish, especially the tank role. Right now, the tank role, I think there's a lot of very playable tanks, which is nice to see. Support, there's nothing wrong with picking something in the A tier or even the B tier, depending on how low you are in elo. But if you're in higher elo, realistically, Kitty will always be safe, but Moira Lucio right now is really, really, really good. And half the time, these characters they're just a lot easier to play than some other characters on the roster. Let's be honest. It's not that hard to mess up Moira. It's not that hard to mess up Lucio if you understand the basics. So that's going to be it for me for this VOD. Hopefully we'll get this up for y'all on YouTube. Lickety split. Super, super fast and awesome. But yeah, this is after playing for 1 week, my impressions of Season 10. Thank you all so much for watching, and Twitch chat saying hello. And for the little one that corrected me on my grammar spelling, thank you. Anyway, that's it for me. Peace.